sing a song from your show?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do a little round robin for the top. And just sing. Don't. It's not right. Like we're singing vibes. The vibe of this musical is. So just make up some lyrics, make up some notes. I'll go first since I'm springing this on everybody.
Yeah.
So the vibe of Diana the musical is very like, me and Camilla, shouldn't we will go have an affair on Diana? That's the vibe.
Revenge dress.
Oh, yes.
Revenge dress. That's the vibe.
Yeah.
What you were trying to sing was the thriller in Manila, but it's Diana and Camilla. Thriller in Manila and Camilla.
Yeah.
RJ definitely actually took in the music the best of the three of us based on that.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, once you
there was a lot
Thriller
to
in Manila with Camilla, I was like, they made a boxing reference just so they could rhyme Thriller in Manila with Camilla.
I mean, you can't say, we'll get into it, obviously.
You can't say there was animosity.
If you're getting into this episode, you're like, do I really want to listen to them talk about this for an hour and a half? We'll just say off the top, there are many decisions that were made in this musical, and it's very exciting for us to talk about choices.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Bold.
I'll also say off the top, I bet it's going to be more than an hour and a half.
See, Adam keeps
hope not.
Adam keeps doing this of we're barely.
We've actually been very good recently.
Yeah.
Our episodes have only been just under 2 hours.
Cool.
But I do feel like we're gonna be. I don't know if mad is the word, but we'll be passionate about this conversation. I think because of how bold. Maybe I hope Molly's just it was fine. It was kind of just run of the mill, average Joe.
Well, RJ, you're going to be delighted by my reaction.
Yeah. Oh my God. Can't wait. Well, how are you doing first? What's the pre-show banter today?
What's the pre-show banter? It's camp and my sunspots have returned because I did learn several years ago that I am allergic to the sun. So that's a fun part of being me.
Being in California.
And working outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just learned, I know someone else who is allergic to the sun. I didn't know this was a thing.
I guess I didn't realize.
It the vitamin D? What is it?
It's something about the sun rays that triggers a histamine reaction. So I get little bumps all over the back of my hands.
And those are sunspots? I just assume sunspots are just
No, actually sunspots I think are discoloration that you get from sun exposure. So it's a big freckle basically. So I don't know what I should call these. I guess they're hives. I don't know.
I guess they are technically hives. Do you have to do you take an antihistamine?
No, I probably should. Actually, I was realizing because my allergies just ragweed and stuff have been bad recently. Mm-hmm. So I've been taking a lot of allergy meds that I think I didn't today because the pollen was down, but I probably need to take them for this.
For the sun. Yeah. Isn't this fun?
I love our conversations.
Insulating.
Yeah.
If you, since this is an audio podcast where we'll visually describe, I do have a fourth guest. We do have a fourth guest today on the podcast. We have Friedrich on the show today. He's sitting on my lap. Friedrich got his annual vaccines today. So he's feeling a little needy, a little vulnerable. And, this is really the show that uplifts one another.
Yeah. And we wish healing.
And that's exactly right. This is the show that wishes healing. And so I am wishing
to this family specifically.
This family has gotten a lot of healing from us.
They need healing.
They need healing.
Yeah.
So I'm also providing healing for Friedrich by letting him sit on my lap today. So Adam, how about you? What's your...
My allergies are also crazy. I don't know. I think Friedrich's pumping out extra allergens right now because of what happened.
Because I am dying today. And it's also very hot. So, he's shedding a little more, I'm sure.
I just got an air purifier. I finally bit the bullet and got one.
Yeah. What do you mean you just?
I just but a week ago.
You've just been raw breathing raw air?
Breathing the raw air this whole time.
Raw dogging the air?
Oh my God.
Sorry, Rita.
Sorry. But not your mother, just Rita.
No. My mom doesn't. Mom, do you know what raw dogging means?
No.
I don't think Rita does either. Yeah.
Okay. No,
good. And
no need to apologize.
And you're not asking us.
It's about hot dogs. Eating a raw hot dog without cooking it.
Yeah. Yes, that's where the saying comes from. We also have an air filter.
We have 3.
3 air filters. Wow, I am behind.
Yeah. We have one in every room. But I'm also allergic to my pet that I own. So
that's true.
But that's
a big part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew is allergic to dogs, but we may still get one eventually. So.
And we do the when we change our furnace filter, we do the maximum heavy duty filter that's like the number's like 1900. And what is that? Like, what does that mean? But
yeah,
it's not the 300 filter where it's just like we put a gossamer curtain in your furnace.
Here's some tissue.
Yeah. Here's some lace. Call it a day.
Pretty lace.
Well, this was thrilling. It's so exciting to talk about lives in our 30s. Let's talk about
other lives.
Let's
talk about lives that no one has ever talked about.
No,
Do
never.
we have any?
Oh, mailbag.
I don't think so. Shall I check that quick?
But we have I believe we have comments from Bride and Prejudice.
We got 2 comments on Bride and Prejudice. Someone said, I watched this movie before ever having heard of Pride and Prejudice.
Wow.
So that's something. And someone else said, welcome to Kinda Bollywood. Would love to see more Bollywood stuff.
Yes,
so,
we agree. We also
we agree.
We will
also
Bollywood in the future.
For sure.
Yes. We promise to bring Bollywood in the future.
Mm-hmm.
This week, Molly, you were challenged to summarize the plot of
Diana's life.
Diana Spencer's life, basically, from Diana the Musical in a minute or less. In a minute or less, Molly. And your time starts now.
We start with a semi-omniscient Diana song about her own naivete, leading to scenes of Charles wooing Diana under pressure from the Queen and resigned pragmatism from Camilla. Diana slowly falls for Charles and only realizes the nature of his relationship with Camilla after the wedding. First, she tries to convince him to love her through the birth of their children, then becomes depressed and finally resolves to get her satisfaction through her charitable work and her popularity. The two carry on for a while with separate affairs, but Diana eventually confronts Camilla at a party and claims Charles as her own, only to realize in the car ride home there is no hope for love in their marriage. When Diana's lover is restationed, she gets her revenge by providing an anonymous interview for a book. Charles is forced to admit the affair on TV, and Diana responds with her appearance in the infamous revenge dress. Diana and the Queen have tea where the Queen sings about missing just being Philip's wife before she ascended to the throne, and calmly releases Diana from her marriage, and Diana sings about a hopeful future only to be interrupted by news of her own death. The chorus ends the show with the line, "The people who will change the world are not the ones you think will change the world."
That was exact, Molly. That was one exact minute.
Crown it. Yes.
Crown it.
Call her queen. That was very good. Very succinct.
Thank you.
Also, this is our summer stock
series
pro shot special.
Exactly. This is not a movie musical. It is a filmed live theater production.
And out to a little peek behind the curtain, the man behind the curtain. Last episode, when I was editing Bride and Prejudice, we had another option that we were going to do, to which I was like, I just don't think the quality of this filming is like good enough, blah, blah, blah. So I don't really want to do it. So I was like, your options are Diana, Come From Away, or Hamilton. And both Molly and RJ were fine with doing this or Come From Away. And really, at the end of the day, it's funny because they either were going to have to listen to me talk about the royal family, or they were going to have to listen to me talk about 9/11. So either way, I was going to win in this situation.
We lose no matter what. Wait, did you actually say not Potter musical because of the quality of the filming of it?
It was that. It would be hard to get the additional guests that we had originally planned on way back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also the quality of that video is not great.
I take umbrage.
And I had no idea how I was going.
I mean, Adam kind of buried the lead, but we were going to ask Imelda Staunton to join the podcast. We were.
And it was funny because we were actually going to ask her either for that or this.
Right.
Yeah,
but I
just famously in The Crown.
Yeah.
But she said no to both. Well, she said she was busy, and she said I'm not in this movie.
She just became a dame.
Wow.
She's Dame Imelda Staunton now.
Wow.
So congrats to her. She's a huge fan of the pod.
It was all that healing we wished.
Dame Imelda.
Yeah.
Dame Imelda.
RJ, what's your relationship to Diana the Musical?
Oh, God. Okay, the musical, this one. I thought you were going to ask me, like, what's your relationship to Lady Diana Spencer? This musical, I basically knew that it existed when people were going to say, actually, no, I did know that it was coming to Broadway during the pandemic. I know that it was like a pandemic, like, return to Broadway, and Diana the Musical is coming. And that was really it. I had not seen anything. I think I had seen some of the Twitterversation when it came out, or like the trailers or the teasers came out, and people were like, Mama, this looks like garbage. And so that was when I saw where a lot of okay, yeah. And there was I think there was either an article or a review that I think Adam had shared that was kind of, or maybe it was NPR. I think NPR kind of talked about it as like, it's bonkers. But if you want bonkers, go ahead, enjoy this. Something like that it was kind of like, everyone was like, it's insane what they're trying to do and show and say about what this family went through.
I don't know if they really have anything to say about it, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. So that's all I knew. And previously to this, I've like said before that like my family was like swept in with the Diana craze too. Like my mom had the pictures, and we watched the funeral. I remember like watching it on TV when I was little. I love the Kristen Stewart movie where she played Diana.
Sure.
I really
Spencer.
Spencer. I really like that movie and that portrayal. Famously, Diana's spirit was reincarnated into
a member of
BTS, Jung Jungkook, because he was born the day after.
I recently became aware of this conspiracy theory. Yes,
it's so great.
So I think I follow her spirit through that.
Right.
Yeah.
Molly?
Do I have to talk about my relationship to Princess Diana or just the musical?
Whatever you feel in your spirit.
Okay, we'll start with
open to share.
Let's start with just Diana, the person. I've said a lot of controversial things on this podcast, but this may be the most controversial thing I'm ever going to say, and we may lose.
I'm really worried you're going to be like, she's a bad person.
I think she's going to say, I never cared. She is just a person. I don't know her.
I don't know her.
But I think people expect that from you. I don't think that's controversial coming from you.
If you have engaged in any of these episodes before,
any other episode of this show, that Molly's going to say that.
Here's what I'm sure of. If somebody said, the three hosts of Showgays, which do you think is least likely to care about Lady Diana? Everyone would pick me every time, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't get why people still care about this story, to be fully honest. There were some people who cheated on each other in the 80s, and that's too bad, I guess, but like it happened a long time ago. I don't know why we care. I think it's really
continue
great
to care.
Obviously, yes, I don't know why we continue to care. I think the work that she did to bring awareness to the AIDS crisis is like extremely valuable, and that is the one part of her legacy that I think matters to this day. But the rest of this, about like how exactly did it go down between her and Charles and Camilla, I could not care less. I do vaguely remember my mom watching the funeral, but I think I was like 5 when that happened. So functionally she just wasn't even a person for most of my life. And I like wonder how many millennials really care about Princess Diana. Like I was watching this the whole time being like, but why would I care? I feel that this was put on assuming that I'm already hooked on the story. My relationship with the musical, though, I remember people saying it was bad when it came out. I wasn't aware of it at all before that. And it got released like at kind of the same time as the Kristen Stewart movie, right? So I feel like they were a little bit compared to each other. I learned from scanning the Wikipedia page before we recorded that it started at the La Jolla Playhouse, which is down the street. So that's cool to know, but I was not aware of it when it was being produced live. I just became aware of it being released on Netflix and people saying that it was bad. That was my awareness going in.
I think when the thing you were saying about millennials not really caring, I think it's, I feel like the people that are like into the royal family that are like our age group, I feel like are more like William and Harry.
Right. They care about
we followed their
royals.
Lives. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I just don't know why.
I think Diana, though, exists in the same, for at least our age millennials. Obviously, there are older millennials.
Yeah.
Like my sister's named after Princess Diana. Okay. But like younger millennials, I think for me, let me talk about me specifically. Yeah. Let me not speak for an entire group of people like Molly just did. I would say for me, she exists in a similar vein of like JonBenet Ramsey, where it's like tragic figure.
Okay.
Because
but like we were too young,
all
I
of
think,
my
right?
life
Like
that I remember of her is everything past her death.
Right.
And so much of it is mired in what happened, what's the conspiracy or whatever. And so I think that's why that's where she operates in the same vein for me.
I know that there are conspiracies around her death, but I don't think of her as being primarily a figure of conspiracy theories either.
Right.
Not in the way that she was Bonet or of like JFK. Like that's a primary association, and for her it's like a secondary thing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just like a victim of a conspiracy, quote, like if something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, I mean, I remember where I was when we heard that she passed, just because we happened to be, because we happened to be coming back from the Precious Moments Museum in Missouri.
My God.
On a road trip, and it was in the middle of the night, and that's when we heard it. And I remember that on the radio, just because.
So you heard the radio that they reenacted at the end of the movie, or at the end
at the end of Diana the Musical, because it was like it was such big news that they even it wasn't just like, oh, you had to be listening to NPR. Like they interrupted regular Delilah is probably what we were listening to be like, anyway.
They shot Brown Eyed Girl for a quick second.
And then the musical, I remember people, when the trailer first dropped, obviously people were like, this is not going to be good. But then other people being like, this could be camp. We don't know. This could be camp. And then when it came out, most people were like, this was not camp.
No, it's not camp.
This was bad.
So that was my only, I have genuinely wanted to watch it only because I'm fascinated by how I wanted to see both how bad it was and also try to piece together how this happened. How does something this bad get a Netflix distribution to where it's millions of people around the world are able to watch this at a moment's notice. In a way, most musicals, you are not able to do that with. So it's fascinating. But that's it. Here are the facts about Diana the Musical. It started in La Jolla in 2019. The music and lyrics are by David Bryan. Music is by David Bryan. I'm sorry. The lyrics are by David Bryan and Joe DiPietro, and the book is by Joe DiPietro. David Bryan is of Bon Jovi, a member of Bon Jovi, which
you always thought Bon Jovi.
I thought Bon Jovi was one person.
I thought
I thought it was just.
Oh, his name is John Bon Jovi, isn't it?
John Bon Jovi. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the group is.
So I guess he has a whole band. That's an actual set.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's a member of Bon Jovi. He went to Juilliard. He did the music for Memphis, which was a musical that came out in 2012, I want to say.
Yeah.
So he's actually technically a Tony winner already.
Wow.
So that's exciting. And then he made this, and it's a very different energy. And it's based on the life of Diana, Princess of Wales. It opened on Broadway in 2021. It was supposed to open March of 2020. And I don't know why. I don't know why it didn't.
They delayed. Yeah.
They delayed for some reason from March of 2020. Not sure. So yeah, they opened in 2021. It ran for, I don't know, a minute and a half. It ended very quickly.
Yeah.
And then it did have a concert in London last year in 2023. And it has received only negative reviews ever. So
that's what's crazy, is that it didn't do well in La Jolla, but then they were like, but let's go to Broadway, baby. Was it like it was always going to Broadway? That's the part of Broadway producing that I still don't understand. I know there are workshops that have to happen or tryouts, but sometimes it's a make it or break it if the tryout is really bad. Sometimes it's this is just a formality,
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Anything that's called Diana the Musical is going to make money, even if it is bad, because people are going to want to see what the hell is happening.
Yeah.
Because they already know, I don't even want to say the source material, but
they know the people. They know
everything. They think they know everything. Yeah. So now it's how do you see it?
Well, they think that the people who will change the world are the ones that we think will change the world.
And the show has to tell them it's not.
It's not.
It's not those people.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So I guess that, I mean, from purely a cynical standpoint of will this make money? I guess it makes sense to be like, sure, fund the thing that's people are going to pay tickets to, even if it's Springtime for Hitler. People are going to see Springtime for Hitler. You know what I mean?
I don't know that we want to make that comparison. I'm not sure that that's the level we're at here.
Well, okay, so Springtime for Hitler, obviously referencing the producers, which was pointedly trying to make a flop.
Yes.
I don't think this is pointedly trying to make a flop.
Yeah.
But I do think there is, to some extent, a cynicism that they can put whatever in the show and it's not really going to matter because
it'll
people
be
are
sold
going
on
to
the
pay
title.
to see it.
Okay.
Yes.
It'll be sold on title. Yeah.
That's my theory.
Okay.
That's what we're going
And I
with.
also feel like because it was supposed to go on Broadway during the pandemic and then the pandemic really surged, I feel like they probably were like, we know people are going to want to come see the shenanigans after.
Because what everyone was talking about during the pandemic. Princess Diana.
What happened to Lady Diana?
That was the topic on everyone's tongues.
Yeah.
The name on everybody's lips.
Yeah. I think... Yeah,
but they were probably just like, let's get not that it's a surefire hit, but let's get something that people will like. Let's get Margaritaville or whatever.
Yeah.
I think this actually made more of an impact because it happened during like right after the pandemic than it would if it had just opened in the regular season without a pandemic.
That it was one of the like return to Broadway to these shows, these stories.
Yeah, because I don't think this would have been filmed for Netflix if they had just opened on Broadway. Because they filmed it for Netflix summer of 2020. So they had no audience. They just filmed it. They spent like a week or whatever filming the show.
That was a question that I had. In other pro shots, do they not have an audience, or am I misremembering?
Typically they do.
Okay, that's what
I'm remembering. I think there was audience in Hamilton, right? Like
there
hear
is audience in
clapping and
Hamilton.
stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Hamilton is a mix of a bunch of stuff. They filmed, I think, a couple shows for wide shots.
Yeah.
And then audience sounds.
Because you wouldn't want like a camera guy up on the stage ruining the audience experience, obviously. But yeah, the lack of a reaction from an audience was definitely felt in my viewing experience.
Yes, absolutely. It felt very ominous.
The pause for laugh with no laugh. Yeah.
With no laugh.
No applause after any song. I feel like they should have just piped applause.
Honestly, just like do a sitcom version.
Or like audio record a live production. Like you don't have to get cameras in there, but I guess it was maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't sing it exactly, but you could have at least like the clapping from post song ending really at that. Like you could do something with it, I feel.
Yeah. Cause there's not a ton. I mean, if it was like a funnier show, you would miss like the audience laughter. There's not a ton of laugh lines in this.
But
there's not a ton of purposeful laugh lines. There are things I laughed at for sure. I don't think they were intended to be funny. Yeah, let's talk. Okay, let's get into it. On a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
10 being the greatest musical that's ever been made.
Yeah.
1 being I can't even think, something god awful.
Yeah.
God would think it's awful.
Even the Lord himself would think it's bad. What is the score? What does each of us give as the score of Diana the Musical?
Give it the score.
Because this is really, we do ha 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 ha. We talk about movie musicals, but our degree is in theater. Okay, this is where we are most verbose in discussing the.
Molly, Adam is only saying this because someone in our Boys Love show called us out, being like, "It's so funny how Adam like sounds smart in Showgays, but tries to sound smart in Showgays, but sounds." Which you would think he would tries to sound more gay in Showgays because that's inherently gayer than, watching K-pop and stuff.
Wait, did he say that you sound smart in one context and gay in another, as if those are two opposites from each other?
They are two diametric opposites.
It's the two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Happy Pride, everyone.
There are two genders, smart and gay.
Yes, he absolutely did.
So anyway, this is a musical. This is probably a musical on stage. It's just being filmed. Mm-hmm. I think we're putting
ourselves
really allowed
in the hats
to be a critic of this.
If we were there, we're imagining ourselves in the theater. Like we are reviewing this as
we are Ben Brantley for the New York Times. We are reviewing this.
Okay.
Molly, what score do you give Diana the Musical?
Are we just doing numbers, or are we doing numbers with explanations?
You could do a number with an explanation. I'd love to hear what you have to say. This is a lengthy podcast usually.
Well, I was wondering if the round was just numbers and then we would give explanations.
Oh.
I kind of think we should do just numbers and then explanations.
Let's just do numbers then.
Let's do that. Okay.
3.5.
Okay. RJ?
3.
I'm gonna say 4.5.
Wow. I said that I was the one that was going to be most up on the musical, and I guess.
But I think I'm the most into the source material in quotes.
I was trying to give a score, removing my animosity for the story and setting of the music. Mm-hmm. I do not enjoy 80s music. I do not care about Princess Diana. I was trying to score it as if those were not factors in my experience.
It's fascinating because you bring up the 80s music, and to some extent, yes, but I also think it's like, it sounds like it's trying to, it doesn't sound like 80s music. It sounds like a musical trying to do 80s music.
Yes. I think in a way that appropriate. That doesn't bother me.
To me, it sounded like it was trying to sound like an 80s Andrew Lloyd Webber sound.
It's trying to do Evita. The show is trying to be Evita.
The entire time I was like, this sound beat for like, there is a song that it's like, and the woman, what is it? It's basically, and the cash kept rolling in, but it was like Diana, like, and the story kept getting written or whatever, like, and it was from a reporter.
And the lies kept getting told.
And I was like, this is,
and the truth kept coming out.
The words kept coming out. Words kept coming out.
All of these are probably the correct lyrics. Yeah. All of them.
And then I was like, this is shocking.
This is one of the most, I mean, just from the pure standpoint of like the accessibility of this. If somebody was like, I've never seen a Broadway musical on stage, and you were like, I only have Netflix. There's only one filmed pro shot on Netflix, right? Because Hamilton's on Disney Plus, Come From Away's on Amazon Prime. I only have Netflix. Let me see what all the fuss is about. I've heard Diana the Musical is a Broadway musical that's filmed for blah, 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 blah. I would, if this was my first taste of musical theater, proper musical theater, I would never return to the genre. I would vilify it to an extreme degree. I mean, it's so bad. And again, I have to emphasize that this show is not fun or funny, but it thinks it's doing something.
It's okay. So I think it's fine as a show. I don't think that it was a strong choice in any direction, but I also it is contemporary musical theater. There were some good moments of like a quick change costume. I liked the cathedral flats that came down. Like there were some good moments. I
like the set design a lot, actually. Yeah.
The story is coherent.
Okay.
I mean, I obviously like wrote a summary where I feel like there was a clear like turning points and stuff that.
Yes.
I think that the performances are serviceable, and I don't really know why it garnered such a strong reaction. To me, it was a not very interesting musical, but I am not having a reaction of like, this was so bad.
I would say this garnered mostly the reaction it garnered because there is a level of this show. Okay. The reason this feels like Evita is because it's using that as like its kind of framework. It's just kind of trying to recreate that idea, which is fine. It's whatever. But
we've discussed Evita. I can listen.
The problem is like, most people don't know who Eva Perón is. So the show is allowed to do a lot of building of the character in a way that the audience can just believe whatever you're saying about Eva Perón. You can
build a story of this is Evita's Eva Perón.
Right. If you're a person who's like grown up in the West, there's a level of understanding, except if you're Molly, there's a level of understanding of Princess Diana and her story.
I still know her story, obviously. I just don't care about her story. That's a different
What was her name again? Diane? What was her name?
When I was making the document for this, I accidentally did just Dian, and I almost just left it that way as like a type.
Dion.
Yeah.
Dion.
there is a level of like, you already kind of know the story to some extent. So there's some things that I feel like got cut out that I like. It was weird for me, it was weird that William and Harry are like referenced, but they're not really in the show.
Yeah, they're not characters.
It's weird that Prince Philip is not in the show. Mm-hmm. I think those were the big ones where I was like, oh, that's weird. Especially because they're like referenced in very specific ways. The Queen has an entire song. The way I hated the character of Queen Elizabeth needs to be studied.
Adam, yes. But we have to preface, Adam did watch all of The Crown.
It's all of The Crown. It's my favorite show that's ever been made.
And I think that's also like a weird Netflix thing of like...
Well, that's why they produced it, right? That's why they distributed it, because they were like, it's going to tie in. 2021 was one of their off years.
Yes.
Because 2022 was season 5, 2023 was season 6. They were in between. Fine, they have another royal thing they can come out with.
Let me say this to maybe illustrate how little I care about the Diana plotline. I stopped watching The Crown when the Diana stuff started because I didn't care anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting because
I would say it's the best one.
Probably season 4 is the best season. Yeah.
Just because of the dynamic of her and Margaret Thatcher and Olivia Colman.
Okay, I did watch that season. But then I was like, so it's just going to be more of the Diana stuff. I don't want to watch anything past this.
Yeah, young Diana is good in The Crown. I think the like divorced Diana, I didn't watch it. I just picked it up on it, but it felt like that. I don't know. I
loved Elizabeth Debicki's performance as Diana. I thought she was incredible.
Are amazing. Yeah.
I liked a lot. I am very strong in support of like what The Crown did. The only thing I think I ever had a problem with of The Crown was their casting of Harry in the last season. They chose someone who is not attractive, which was a bummer. But Harry also didn't used to be that cute back when he was like the not as cute royal, because there was a period of time where it was like William was the hot one and Harry was the not hot one, and then at some point they switched and William now looks like a toad and Harry's in California. That is not what we're talking about folks, today. We're talking about Diana.
But that has framed, at least for you, the Queen Elizabeth performance. I don't think the Queen Elizabeth performance is like great, but it's hard to watch it and be like, oh, but I feel like I've seen 3 masterful performances already of what this person is. You know,
I will say
4 counting Helen Mirren.
I watched I watched a large chunk of The Crown. I have seen The Queen with Helen Mirren.
Yes,
sure.
So
same creator.
Like I said, I don't care about the story and I don't feel strongly about like what's accurate or not for the most part.
Right.
But even I know enough to say, this scene where the Queen's like, you know what, girl, I get it.
I get it. I too just want to be in love.
That is not how this went down, girl. That is not how this happened. And to what
how I yearn to just be a naval wife again.
The craziest thing, the show, I feel like it's very clear that the show is made by someone who is American and not British, because there is a level of like, they don't. Here are my 3 big problems with this show. One, I think there are way too many songs. There needs to be like more scenes in general. We could have just, some of these songs did not need to be songs. They could have just been scenes. So that's one. Number 2, I feel like the characters did not have distinct voices. Every person just sounded the same, like the way, not just the way they like sounded literally, but like the way they spoke, the way they like, there was no distinction between like Diana. If you're going to go with this whole thing that like, she was like this simple girl who got swept into all this, like Charles and Camilla should sound like so much hoity-toitier. Yeah. And like Diana should seem like a little more of the people.
But I wonder if that was just because they're trying to sound like all the characters just sounded like they're acting on stage. Do you know what I mean? Like they're all, they all kind of just like blended for me as like, well, they're all projecting.
Well, because they're not, none of them are playing real characters. That's my 3rd biggest problem with the show is like, they want you to, there is like, okay, the royal family is obviously this institution that is more a symbol than it is a functioning monarchy. Obviously, we understand this. So to some extent, they are not of the people. They are not regular human beings. But the thing that made The Crown work, and I'm not just trying to compare this to The Crown, but if it's on Netflix, there's some extent, that's what they want you to do is compare it. Yeah. The Crown was brilliant because it made you understand why the decisions were being made, because they had their stakes that for us seem so stupid and not real suddenly became like life or death. Like they were like huge monumental stakes that these characters had. And that gave them a groundedness to make them feel like real people making these decisions, which was like kind of the brilliance of that show is like turning the people that we only know from photographs into like real actual people. This does, I almost want to say the opposite, where I felt like more removed from Diana than I've ever felt looking at a photo in my life.
Yeah.
And the only scene, and I think this is because the writer is gay and has like some kind of, you know, warm familiarity with this time where Diana reached out to AIDS patients, is the only scene where you really feel like a connection with Diana, the character, is the AIDS scene.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is the best scene in this musical. And then we just go straight back to like, it's the most heightened, like highbrow, lowbrow thing I've ever seen in my life.
Melodramatic. Well, now I have to one up you.
Yeah. And it feels very surface level. It feels very, if I follow this in real time, I assume I would know all of this. There's no exploration of like a perspective. They have chosen not to like take a deeper perspective, which obviously anytime you're speculating on the private life of a public figure, you could be wrong when you assign them a deeper perspective. But like, it's still more interesting to see a take on what if Diana's perspective on this moment was this, than it is to see like just sort of characters speaking out like, here is the expected emotions one would have to this piece of information. Sort of feels like the driving force. Yeah.
It felt like they tried to be like, well, if we just boil this story down to man cheats on wife, woman cheats back.
Yeah.
Then the audience will feel more connected because really, isn't this a story that everybody knows? Which I guess to some extent, sure. We've been fed a story like this in media since the dawn of time, since time immemorial. But what's interesting about them, and I think what like the thing that the fact that they try to end this with the people who change the world are not the ones you think will change the world. That's not what the rest of your show is about. No. The rest of your show is just a tabloid exploration of this adventure, which it's fine. And then if you're going to do that, just go and make it campy. Just make it camp. Make it a satire of these kinds of musicals that are like Evita. Like if you really want to push it, just make it a parody musical.
Sure.
But like they still feel like they need to like be reverential to the story, to Diana, even though it's not. It's so weird.
This is my question is like, did Princess Diana change the world? Like she impacted the world, I'm sure. She's very famous. And again, like the AIDS thing obviously was actually impactful. But like, change the world? Do we think that that's a term that is well applied to Diana?
I think she just gave an opportunity for people to finally be like, wow, I know the royal family now. Like I know someone that's super relatable, or at least I can relate to in that system. And all of a sudden I feel like I know them. It shifted like their image.
She forced a modernization of the royal family. But in no way would I say that changed the world.
That was the Industrial Revolution of that
because
time.
Because we don't live in the UK, so like how people view the royal family to me is not a monumental thing. So maybe, yes, if I lived in the UK and the royal family were like a real political presence in my life, then I would say like that really changed things. And maybe
but that's the thing is like that they're not. I mean, this is the like some of the confusion of the Crown too. It's like they're not a political institution. Like they're strictly apolitical. They're not supposed to have beliefs. They're just supposed to go to like charity events, give a speech here, visit a factory there.
They're meant to be apolitical and not having an opinion on
of politics.
But they are political in the sense of filling that role of the figurehead of the state, right?
Of the figurehead,
So
in
like,
the church, don't forget the literal church of England.
So like, I think they are, I mean, political in the sense of like, I would view them as the heads of the country in a spiritual sense.
Sure.
Yeah. But like RJ, what you were saying about how she changed the royal family and people felt like they could like actually understand them or whatever. Like maybe also that's where I don't care about Diana's story because like I only know the royal family in a post Diana circumstance.
Yes,
and so maybe
exactly.
if I had the experience of what it was like before all of this happened and could point to like, here's what it felt like before and here's what it felt like after, I would like feel it more. But I'm too young for that and I'm too American for that. So I don't care.
Yeah.
So
Eagle screech.
I mean, I also like Evita, I don't think changed the world, like impacted the course of Argentinian politics for sure. But like changed the world, I don't know.
Yeah. That's why it's like, I mean, I will say I came out of this, and for all the
Happy
complaints
Pride, I came out.
for all the complaints we had about Evita when we saw it, and I would say I
Twice.
still feel we did watch it twice, and I would say I still feel more strongly about the stage musical of Evita than I do about that Madonna film.
Yeah.
You have to watch it after watching this and be like, well, at least Andrew Lloyd Webber had something to say about Ava. Like it's not trying to. There is a level that they are trying to have their cake and eat it too. I think the most damning thing about this is when there is a scene, they even try to like reference kind of the conspiracy energy, where they have the scene where the queen is like, back in the day, we would have just had you killed. So I wish it was back in the old times. But
That's
then
what I'm
later
saying.
they have the scene where she's like graciously like lets Diana go.
Yeah.
And is like, okay, I'll give up. I'll let you not have your security
I'll
detail.
let you have the divorce.
Yeah. So it wants to be like, oh, here's a little, for those of you that really believe that the queen killed Diana, here's a little line for you to have to munch and chew on.
But even with the Evita thing, like in the stage show, it's so framed by the Che character that like, you know, it starts with Evita's death, everyone hearing it and everyone's affected. And he's like, well, let me show everyone why people are affected. And then you tell me, the audience, like you, the audience, tell me if this is like, if this is what we should be feeling. But you could have done that here. That could have been really interesting too.
This brings me to a major question. Would this musical benefit from a Che?
100%.
I think it.
But
I think it was begging for it. I don't know that it needs to even be a real person. I don't think it needs to be a historical figure. I think there should have been a magical Pippin narrator.
Yeah,
that was
Fagin from Oliver. I don't care who.
I like called out in my summary because I thought it was such a weird choice to have it start with her singing a song reflecting on her own naivete. Like she knows about it, and I was like, is it like you're telling me this character is like so self-reflective and nuanced, or you're like telling me about the state that we're setting up of the story, or I didn't understand, like, to what extent is this actress Diana right now? I don't really get it. And if we had just it could just be like, I don't know, like a butler in the palace or something, right? But just like somebody whose job is to like comment on the story and to drive it forward, that's not actually a character in it, I think would have really benefited the musical.
What would have been cool was if it was like kind of like a Glass Menagerie type of narrator too, of like he's discussing Diana's life, but in turn it's like reflecting something about his own life.
Just have it be an old gay man.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
Diana,
like someone who
have it be the man in the chair from Drowsy Chaperone and call it a day.
Or like someone she met at like when she was doing her like AIDS outreach, like something like that, where it's like, okay, clear point of view.
Well, I mean, what works about Evita is that, especially in the film, they use him he just becomes moments. The men of Argentina.
Yeah.
Or the people of Argentina. Yeah. So if there had been a way to like symbolize this character, or even like in a Hamilton way, like everybody all the chorus ensemble wears like a similar outfit. So they all kind of take turns telling the story.
Yeah.
That could be cool too. There needed to be something, because this does the like classic thing that also like weirdly Iron Lady did, that movie that Meryl Streep made in like 2013, where it tries to be like, at first it tries to be like, oh, she's just so innocent and pure. And then later like becomes into the power, which I do think Evita doesn't do. Like Evita from the beginning is kind of always like, she was always very driven to
get out from her
station.
Yeah.
Where this really tries to be like, oh, she's just swept up.
She fell in love.
And then the show doesn't try to explain why she's in love. Like there's no love scene that they have together. Like
they have these scenes where she's kind of explaining like, well, I need to get Charles back. I'm like, why? I've never seen you feel like you wanted to.
I mean, there's the proposal, I think, is maybe the closest to that. And then also the wedding is just sort of, it's not him, it's the whole fantasy of it.
Yeah.
So I think we're supposed to understand that she fell in love with the idea of being the princess, and that it would she believed come with the love of the prince.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of her step grandmother's romance novels, Barbara Cartland.
Exactly.
It could have been. I mean, we got that one scene, the start of, I think, Act two. Barbara Cartland sings about the affair.
Barbara Cartland.
Okay.
Cartland.
I think it's Cartland.
I just every musical scene that's about a man that women desire that does this this kind of bass line and women in black dresses or whatever, I just feel has never it's not written by a woman. It has nothing.
No.
It has no relationship to female desire. And that's fine. If this were camp, that would be great. But it's not, and they want me to genuinely think that this is how women get hot and heavy is this kind of thing.
A stable boy.
It just isn't. Okay, wait, but I wanted to go back to something. Okay, come for me, listener who wrote in being why does Molly need every musical number to be a dream sequence? But I wish to the point of how she fell in love with the fantasy that obviously the wedding is iconic. You have to real things from the wedding, but
yes.
Make it she transports herself into a literal fairy tale for the wedding. You know what I mean? That could have been a cool direction to take a musical in, would be what if we live in Diana's fantasy world, and how could each of these moments be heightened in a way like that too? Show, there's just a lot of different ways that you could make a perspective. I also love the idea of just it's literally the question of the musical is how did she become a gay icon, and it's told through gay men's perspective and them pointing to specific
I would watch that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel that's what Act 2 is more
it's more
how did Diana
it's more that,
but it's not.
I think Act 1,
but it's not, because she's still kind of framing it as well, it'll still be my way of getting revenge on him. It's not I'm finding power in myself to be an inspiration. It's I'm doing it to get back at
I mean, I think they do. So they set I think what they try to set up, and again, does this work? Who knows? But I think they do try to set up that she falls in love with the idea of Charles when they go to that cellist. Is it a cello?
Or is it just
Bach.
a classical
it's
music?
a Bach performance.
Yeah, it's
and in it, she's this is so boring. I wish I could teach him how to dance. And then they do this fake dance,
which Molly's favorite. Yeah,
my favorite genre.
Get transported into
we get transported to Molly's fever dream. And I do
mannequins roller skating,
because later in the something in Manila with Camilla and Willy Vanilli, they Camilla has the line where she's you didn't fall in love with him, you fell in love with the who he could be. And I do think that's what it is trying to say, is she's actually in love with everything around it. But I don't think they made strong enough choices in either direction. I just feel you just make Camilla the villain, make Charles the villain, make Diana the tragic hero. I feel they still tried to be well, they still have to, they're still real people.
Except the line where they say that he should step aside and let William.
That was
I could not believe that happened.
Listeners, there was a line where she basically said if Charles would step aside and let my William reign, then maybe this pain would not be in vain.
Was this written before
that.
Queen Elizabeth died?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can't say that now, I feel. You gotta cut that line, girl.
I mean, they performed this in London last year in a concert.
Wow.
And no one was beheaded. Shocking.
Shocking. They bring it back.
I wish I'd been more camp.
Yeah, I'm sorry, baby.
And I thought that was because of how bad it was.
Because of how bad the wigs were. I was this has got to be a little camp.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was. Or I think, unfortunately, even worse, I think this was a straight person trying to do camp.
Oh, that's tragic.
Yeah. Which is so sad.
I have a question for you about Princess Diana and the gays.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever brought this up on this podcast before. I don't know why I would have an occasion to, but I feel maybe I have. Why? I feel gay men love the other woman. Why are there no Camilla gays?
Because she's ugly.
Wow. Okay.
It goes back to misogyny.
I genuinely do think there is a level of it that's like Diana's the pretty one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's the one who should get the fairy tale. But she's also, I mean, weirdly, Diana's also from a blue-blooded family. Like she's not Kate Middleton, who is more ostensibly like a regular person who became a princess.
Yeah.
She was still tangentially in the royal family to some degree, but like Camilla was fully in the world. Yeah. So at least Diana still felt like it was like a real regular person could like become the princess, blah, 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 blah. I think that that's why gay men.
Yeah. I just feel like the put upon wife is like usually not the gay icon.
Yeah.
The like poor, sweet, innocent wife that's been done wrong is like the last woman that gay men hold up.
But that's why I'm saying I think the second act is like for the gay men, because that's the act where she's like, I'm not the sad wife anymore. I'm going to do the revenge dress. I'm going to blah, blah,
I think
blah,
it's more of like a Jackie O situation where like the gays love the Jackie O era because it's like she's post the trauma, you know, like I am my own
when
woman.
She becomes Jackie Onassis.
Yes, I have become my own, like kind of like
self-actualized.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's funny because I will say, like, not to bring it back to The Crown, but I really liked the Camilla performance there from
Emerald Fennell.
Fennell. That like in that portrayal, I really felt like, wow, like they really did Charles and Camilla wrong this entire time because they could have just been together.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the oh God, not that I just want to sit here and talk about The Crown, but The Crown does a really good job of explaining where each of these characters sees themselves in the terms of the history of the show and what the show is saying. Yeah. But like it sets up King Edward and Wallace Simpson, him abdicating for her, and then how it starts to become like a similar situation with Charles and Camilla. And so like Elizabeth puts a stop to it and makes him go seek elsewhere for a wife, assuming that if she just put a stop to it, that it would end. This is like the Crown's interpretation, obviously. And then it doesn't work out. And then it still all ends up blowing up in their face because true love wins out overall. But like, no one, I appreciate that I do believe Charles and Camilla really love each other. I think they've really proven that.
I think they've really proven it.
But dear God, it's just like, you know, those like older people who will like sit on the same side of the booth at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's just the two of them. It's very that energy where it's like, do you have no other interests besides each other? Like, I just like, it's just like, stop. You know what I mean?
Because they don't have that reaction to old people who sit on the same side of the booth as each other.
Well, it's...
Wow,
I have family members who do that. My mom will know who I'm talking about. And we have discussed. It's a little grating.
Tea.
Yeah. Should we listen to any of these songs or are we good? I feel like we're good.
Care.
Let's give the girls a Thrilla in Manila with Camilla.
Yeah, do that one.
Sure.
Whatever the hell that was called.
And this is...
And it's wild to really imagine like these people who...
The words came pouring out. That was the song you were thinking of earlier.
These people, the royal family, belting. It was kind of like a weird, like, oh, I've only known them for being, you know, very soft-spoken, very polite, obviously, in like anything that they've spoken publicly. So it was very crazy, to, you know, just to watch, you know, a meek Diana just like fully belt out like her love.
I'll just put it in. I'm not even going to play it for our recording today. I don't want to hear it again. Mostly because I don't know what the actual song is called. Because it's not called Thrilla in Manila. Oh, it's called The Main Event.
Because it's boxing.
Darling, finally. And I'm here too. Surprise.
Good night and goodbye to my discontent. I just got a ticket to the main event. It's the Thrilla in Manila, but with Diana and Camilla. Thrilla in Manila with Camilla. So hold on to your hats. These cats are gonna fight. It suddenly became one hell of a night. Now let's start the show. Ready, set, here we go. Go, go, go.
Diana. Actually, it's your Royal Highness.
You swore you wouldn't cause a scene.
You swore you wouldn't see her again.
Perhaps you and I should go somewhere private. The basement.
Love to.
Let's talk about these performances. Okay. Because this actually won some golden raspberries.
Yeah, many of them.
It was nominated for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 golden raspberries, and it won 5 of them.
Okay.
Which I think is shocking, mostly because the golden raspberries usually do not pick a show, or it's not usually a pro shot of a musical. So it was nominated for worst screen combo from any klutzy cast member and lamely lyricized or choreographed musical number. I don't even think that's funny. No. Golden Raspberries, to be honest. It was nominated for worst supporting actress for Erin Davey, who I believe was Camilla. Worst supporting actor for Gareth Keegan, who was
someone.
I think he was, what's his name? Patrick Stewart? No, what was it? James Hewitt.
Oh, James Hewitt. Yes, the stable boy.
And it was and Roe Hartramp was nominated for worst actor who played Charles. And then it won worst screenplay. It won worst supporting actress for Judy Kaye as Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, and worst actress for Gianna DeWall. It won worst director for Christopher Ashley, who is the artistic director of the La Jolla Playhouse, by the way, and worst picture. So, it won awards. I mean, we can say that this is an award winner for sure.
I do also want to say I have nothing against this actress who plays Diana, but the energy is not right for the character.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's putting Diana in a musical. That feels like a mismatched
putting Diana
energy.
in a musical, and the weirdness of a pro shot that she is playing to the back of the house, and there's a camera right there, and so it's always a little like, wow, that's really high energy, and Diana is not a high energy figure, but like obviously if you're doing a Broadway musical, you got to be up there.
Have to.
Yeah.
Because that's Diana's charm. Was she was a little wallflower. She was like demure,
right?
Especially when she was young. I do think in the London concert they fix one of the problems I had, which is that there should be a distinction between young Diana and older Diana.
Yeah.
So I do think in the concert they have 2 different actresses play Diana at different points in time, which I think maybe would help. Really, it wouldn't, because the problem is the show in general. It's not necessarily one decision.
I will say musical theater is full of flighty ingenues like a Joanna from Sweeney Todd, a Cosette, but they don't usually anchor a whole show. So
sure.
I guess it would be hard to do Les Mis all from Cosette's perspective. That would be a lot of Cosette. They're better as sprinkles on top and not the main course. But I also don't think it's a genre that like doesn't allow you to have like a how do I want to describe Diana in my mind? Maybe demure character. Like I just don't think that. I don't know. I think they could have done something different and I think having a narrator could have helped them, because then she would not have to do so much of the actual heavy lifting of the narration, and her songs could be less utilitarian, and they could be more sprinkled in. Yeah.
And also she could be allowed to, like, again, if we just remove there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 songs in Act 1.
Yeah.
And I believe like 14 songs in Act 2. That is so many songs, guys. That is so many songs. And for a character who we know as a person was like soft spoken, fine. I understand it's 2024. It's 2020, whatever. It's 2020. We're doing a musical. We're not going to have not a beltress, right? We're in the era of the leading lady is a beltress. So I understand that. But at least give her some points where she's allowed to like be softer, other than she starts the show at like a full belt. And I was like, who is that?
Who is this?
Right,
because that's not who I know it is.
It could be an arc where her songs start very like breathy and soft and that sort of thing, and then they become more belty over time, and it could have told a musical story about her character progression, but no.
It felt
like I was watching a a musical parody they were doing on an episode of The Simpsons. Like the Simpsons,
100%. Or like 30 Rock.
Yeah.
Yes, or like a 30 Rock bit.
Yeah.
But they're like, make sure you see Diana the musical, and then they show the clips.
Yeah.
And
The Roro Gyro.
and then they show, but then I was watching, I'm like, yeah, but they went with that, and now we're watching it.
And now we're
Yeah,
just
I watched
watching
the whole
it.
thing. They would definitely have that clip of the "You gave me a son, so jolly well done" or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
So the show started and I was like, there's not enough rhyming for me. And then it's like the show heard me say that.
in
And it
real
was like,
time.
we're going to do the worst rhyming schemes you've ever heard in your life. And I was like,
Charles
let me go back.
literally said, "You've given me a son." To that I say, "Jolly well done." Wow.
Again, not written by a British person.
No.
Like it's fully a caricature of British people. Which I'm not mad about. Like we can make fun of the British. I have no problem with that.
Molly, any words to that?
Any words to the Brits?
Sure,
I know you're
whatever.
such an American. You're
I'm
such a strong
such an American.
patriot for this country.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like the British are like they can't take it or whatever if we make fun of them. But
God forbid it's like 75 degrees over there right now. It's a heat wave. You know what I mean?
well, with 75 degrees Celsius, they'd be dead. So, 25 degrees or whatever. Celsius is crazy.
Yeah.
Don't use Celsius. I'm against it. That's one way that I will be a genuine American patriot. Fahrenheit is the superior temperature system for weather. Yeah, I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. I like, okay, here's what I'll say. I like contemporary musical theater. It's very contemporary musical theater. And so I like that about it.
Oh,
I didn't.
Okay.
I thought there's like an energy of like, there's like people who make fun of this on TikTok that I always think is really funny, but like ensemble members moving furniture in and out as like transition sequences. Like
Yes.
you're not allowed to like do blackouts anymore in musical theater because that's time you can cut.
Yeah.
So, which fine, but there's constant motion, kind of like Hamilton. How
Yeah.
Hamilton is like always moving, but Hamilton has
is
a point of view.
Yeah.
It has a
and
point
a
of view,
story
and
to
it's
say.
the damn
this-
stage is a rotating circle. So like,
Right, and there's like thought put into like how they like tell the
how they're
story
moving.
with like
they're moving through
imagery and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily think this has that going. The strongest aspect design wise, I would not say is the costumes. Actually, I did not really love the
Nor
costumes
the
in
wigs.
this, nor the wigs. But I would say I liked the set design and the lighting design. I thought those were strong elements, and I especially liked when the lights, because like the back of the set is like supposed to look like the gates of Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
And then they like had like neon lights in between that started to like almost feel like prison bars, which I thought that was really interesting, of like kind of symbolizing she's trapped in this environment.
Yeah.
I think that's about the only thing I really enjoyed. I don't even know if there's like a really strong performance that I was like, I liked Paul. That's what I'll say. I liked Paul, who was like her
little buddy that
Dandy
Butler.
Dandy
Ventress. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked that they used the Fiyero costume for James Hewitt when he came out in his riding outfit. It was just Fiero's outfit from Wicked and
No shirt.
Dancing Through Life. What else did I like? I liked when it was over. Oh, let's talk about this ending.
Okay.
So the whole time we're leading up,
Adam just kept saying over and over again, I don't know how they'll end this.
I didn't know how they're going to deal
I had a
with
feeling
the death.
because they had that scene after the main event party that she crashes. And Prince Charles and her are in a car and they light it like they're in a
One
car.
of the only scenes in the show.
Yes, they're like talking, and then he has a little bit of like a reprise like tag or whatever, but it's just the two of them. But they're lighting it like they're on the car. And I looked at Adam and I was like, I think they're going to do this at the end. They're going to show her crash or like allude to her in the car, because why else would they show this one time?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like they're actively being like, well, let's light a car sequence so that way it comes back. So I was like, my guess was that they are going to show it till the end. I don't know how far they'll get into. Like, I didn't think that it was like, and then you're divorced and then everything else. Like
this, it can't end happily, right? We know that there's no happy ending to this story.
But like, we didn't know like what
when she was singing this hopeful song where I was like, are they just like not going to address it? Are they
just
like,
not going to kill her?
And then there was some time where she was not married to him anymore, and that's all I'm going to tell you about.
And she won in that regard.
And in that regard, she was successful.
How did you think it was going to end, Molly? And then we'll reveal how it ends, because I'm assuming no one listening to this has watched this.
I thought maybe, I mean, some of this I was like, this is an offensive ripoff of Hamilton in terms of what they did. I won't say it anymore because you're gonna reveal it. But I guess I thought maybe because they were getting so amped up, I was like, did she like do something specific after the divorce that they're gonna like kind of try to end on a high note of like, and then she like opened that charity and that was really great. And then
orphanage.
Right. I don't know. Like I thought maybe that they were going for like hey, we're going to dwell on like the freedom that she did get for a short period of time. And then the death will be like an unfortunate coda. That's maybe where I thought it was going. Yeah.
This doesn't do that.
No.
She sings a song called If, parenthetical, Light the World. After which Queen Elizabeth has told her that she's allowed to get divorced. She sings a solo.
And it's basically about like, now I can like change the world, or like now I can.
And now my life begins.
Yeah.
And then she turns around and there's paparazzi flashbulbs.
And people
littering the stage.
People reciting headlines.
No. She in silence, walks to the back of the stage while the flashbulbs are going off. And then that's when they start doing the like Princess Diana.
They do the headlines while she's there. She's still facing.
Well, before they do headlines, right? Don't they do little snippets of letters of people saying thank you for her donations to things? So first we get the like, thank you
accolades,
for donating your dress to this cause or whatever, and then Diana walked through a minefield and whatever.
Yes.
So which makes the song swell of like all these things that I can finally do now. And then she's still facing up. You're right. She's still looking at the audience, and then like the reporters come and be like, breaking news, blah 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 blah, da 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 da, and then someone says, the Lady Diana Spencer has like died or whatever, and then she turns in silence turns around, and you just hear her heels as she walks upstage, like towards Buckingham Palace, basically.
Yeah,
or upstage to the void, and then
to the great beyond,
and then Camilla, Charles, and the Queen walk out center stage to sing the song, the line.
We are being told now to prepare for the worst.
There's shock and horror as the West wakes up to the news.
We can now confirm that Princess Diana has died.
The people who will change the world are not the ones you think will change the world.
And then I thought it was going to go into a song. And then it just ended.
That's it.
And
Lights, directed by Chris.
And it very clearly is trying to do the gasp.
Yeah.
From the end of Hamilton.
The gasp. Yes.
But the gasp is fascinating because you can graft whatever you want on it. You can mean whatever you want. What does she see? Blah, 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 blah. It's fascinating. It's why it's so interesting as an ending, because it's so artistic.
Yeah.
What does this gobbledygook mean? The people who will change the world are not the ones you think will change the world.
That's a Laffy Taffy riddle, bitch.
I already talked about...
That is a fortune cookie.
I already talked about my issue with like changing the world as like a thing to ascribe to Princess Diana, but also like oh, who do you think would change the world? Maybe this woman who became incredibly famous when she was 19 because she married into a royal family. Like, yeah, I'd say she's more towards the top of my list than the bottom in terms of like having a public image in which she could do something. Not really that unexpected that she impacted things when she was a part of a royal family. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
How is that the message of this?
It's not, and at no point during the show has it been the message. That's what's so shocking about it, is at the end, that's my take. That's supposed to be what I'm taking away from this, because that has not been telegraphed up until this point.
It's honestly, as you said, Adam, like they decided to really lean into the whole affair narrative. So like really a lot of it has been about how the charity work functions for her own self-image in reclaiming herself after the affair, not as like a purely motivated by impacting the world. Like, not like she seems selfish. Obviously you can do good things for like somewhat selfish reasons and there's still a good thing to do. But like, but like none of this is, it's not a musical where like, maybe if it had been like, okay, we start out with the whole, I kind of fell in love with the prince and I had these children and he still didn't love me. And then it was like, great, so I'm done with Charles and we're gonna kind of like forget about this character for the next act and a half while I just like focus on my public works. Then I could buy, this is a musical about how what she wanted was the Prince fairy tale and what she got was this like opportunity to make great change. Then you could do that. You could tell that story of Diana, but that is not what they chose to do. They were like, hey, all these moments where she's like, I'm done with you, Charles. Then she's like, but I'm a little bit not done with you, Charles. Wait, Charles, actually, can we still talk? Can we really like, can we work on it a little bit more? Like, and that's fine. I'm not judging somebody for like trying to work on their marriage, obviously, but it's not, the story was not about that changing the world being more important to her than the relationship. It was about the relationship.
Yes. The thing too that I think is fascinating is like how the Crown, again, I'm sorry. How the Crown deals with making Diana super sympathetic is they, especially in the final like season and a half, they really delve into like she was a wonderful mother. Like she loved William and Harry so much. And so that's what is so heartbreaking about her death, is more that you realize how young they are, how much they like, what great relationships we had with them. They put in so many points at which she's like singing in the car with them and like just being like almost like a regular mom. It feels like that's what is like truly heart-wrenching about the whole thing. And that is why I thought it was so weird that they didn't, I understand why they aren't going to cast kids for this to be in like one scene or whatever, but like to not have them at all then makes it that her only sympathetic thing is that she just got cheated on. But then like she goes on, you then make it a point to then she cheats on him. So then I'm like, but then she's not, not that she's not sympathetic, and obviously she is the victim of this horrific car crash, but there's more that could be done to making me feel something when she passes away, other than just relying on, well, you already have preconceived notions of how you feel about Diana's passing coming into the show. And that's what is so frustrating, is like, it just trades on that actually trying to tell the story that it's trying to tell. And it's so frustrating.
And that cheating part too is like that's telling to me that, you know, men created this thing, because it's like, well, that's her villain story. That's the reason why she's a traumatic figure. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it's more than just this.
Yeah. It's more, they don't even really, they barely talk about the bulimia. There's one scene where
she hurts herself.
And she's in the hospital. They don't really get it. They barely even touch on the fact that she felt like she was like trapped in this environment. Like they really
wasn't allowed to leave or anything.
Right. They don't even really get into that. Like they just rely on being like, doesn't it suck that she got cheated on? And it's like, I mean, sure, but how many women throughout history that has this happened to? Like, she's not in that regard. Like, just make a story about, you know,
all the women,
Felicia down the street. I mean, like, who cares at that point? Like, it doesn't matter. And I guess maybe you're trying to be like, so she's in every woman in that regard, but she's also not, because the whole country comes out to mourn her. Like, what? What are you trying to say? Yeah.
Nothing. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to make anyone a villain. They don't want to have a perspective story.
Yeah. I would say the most villainous character does feel like Camilla.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's just how she functions in the story. It's hard not to see her that way, but like, it's literally just her being like, hey, you know, Charles, I understand, like, you can't marry me. Let me help you pick somebody to marry. And then he sees her and she's like, yeah, I miss you all the time. I love you a lot. Not very villainous, I don't think.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, by having it start off very clearly that like they are in a relationship, but she is like, we can't be together. So let me find you the perfect person that you will love. Like, you're going to love her and you guys will fall in love. That I'm like, okay, well then I mean, I'll always say that Charles is the villain, but they're not. They were not going to make Charles the villain.
No, which was also weird because I was like, you're not doing this in the UK. Like, just make him the villain. Who cares? Nobody in America.
They didn't make him the
villain
until they said step aside and let William be king instead.
I know.
Yeah. I was like, oh, you did want him to. You were. I
mean, it's funny because like they have the whole scene where she's like, the queen is like, we're gonna take HRH away. Sorry, you won't be referred to as Her Royal Highness anymore. Blah blah blah. And then, I mean, if you know anything about the royal family, she would at some point, if she had lived the rest of her life as, you know, and she died of old age or whatever, she would at some point be called Queen Mother because she would be the mother of the king.
Yeah.
To which that is the title that she would be given. So at some point, she, even if she wasn't still married to Charles, she would be called Queen Mother. Purely based on like that is how the titles of the monarchy work. So that is fascinating. I don't know. The whole thing is like weird, and I wish it was better. I
wish
think
it was just funnier, and
yeah.
I wish either was like a tragic, like it's almost like they could have just truly done Evita, and I think it probably would have been better. Like, start with the funeral.
I agree. I wish we'd watch Evita instead of this. Yeah.
Yes, we're all in agreement here.
Just call it Diana the musical, but just the whole thing is Evita.
It's
Evita. It's
exactly.
Except
swap the name. Swap the name.
And I feel like you probably
London. What's new? London. I'm new.
London.
Stupid. Yeah, no, I agree. If it started like with that funeral and then it's like, how did we get to this point? Then at least something.
Yeah. She did. I do want to say, to the point that I was making about, like, I thought maybe they would talk about some good thing that she did after the divorce. I just looked it up, that they separated in 1992 and finalized their divorce in 96, and then she died in 97. She did have a period of her life that was like post-divorce, and I feel like people never talk about what actually. I know she got hounded by the media and she had a series of boyfriends. Like, that's basically it. I feel like she must have had some real, you know, liberatory experiences and accomplishments and stuff like that. Like, it's a little bit sad that people act as if she died.
She died as soon as they got divorced.
I mean,
they signed the papers and she dropped dead.
Yeah.
I mean, let's also, I'm sorry, I don't even want to like talk about the conspiracy theory really, but like, if you were going to kill her, do it before the divorce. I mean,
the divorce.
Do it because you want to avoid the divorce would be why you murder her. Because otherwise, all they've done is still gone through all the scandal, but then killed her while she was still young and beautiful. Not the smartest move in terms of PR, in my opinion, of the royal family. So
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was wondering if they were going to bring Dodi Fayed in at the end and be like, here's the guy that she was with, died with. But no, they don't think that's interesting either. Okay. Well, that was fun. Wasn't that fun? Let's move on.
Okay.
The people who will change the world are not the ones you think will change the
So I have a review here from Richard Lawson from Vanity Fair. These lyrics are not, as presented in the production, meant to be silly and campy. They are just the stilted, embarrassingly serious ramblings of a show that has no interest in real humanity. It wants only to rhyme and otherwise approximate what it thinks a musical should be, or at least what the form was decades ago at the height of Andrew Lloyd Webber's West End dominance. The production is curiously dated in that way, as if it was found in a pile of Cameron Mackintosh's old papers and mounted on stage without any effort to contemporize. The main effect of the musical, quite self-sabotagingly in Netflix's case, as another heavily Diana-focused season of The Crown is due out next year, is to make us throw up our hands and say enough. No more Diana, please. Let the woman rest. I realize this may sound rich coming from the digital pages of Vanity Fair, but that's how strong a repulsion this musical provokes, which is where Spencer could maybe be in trouble. And then it talks about a bit about Spencer. It felt tacky.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that it didn't feel like it was trying to honor her. Not that it necessarily has to, but I think you're supposed to think that with the way it ends. So then I'm like, where's that energy the rest of the show?
I know I've been making these complaints about not caring about Diana, but I do genuinely feel like it's been too long for this to feel current, and it's been not enough time for it to be enough in the past that you don't have to treat all the characters with such a light touch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Write this musical when Charles and Camilla are dead. I'm sorry, I'm not wishing that or anything, but like eventually that's gonna happen. And
right.
Maybe even William and Kate are gone. Do you know what I mean? Like where nobody that like really knew these people are still gonna see it. And then just like, I mean, that was kind of what was like crazy about The Crown, is it was like, wow, we're just really going in for it without like, this woman could still see all this stuff of us speculating about her, dramatizing her life, but like, they're just gonna do it. So you almost need like a little more time and space for you to be a little less reverential to the people that were involved in it, I think.
Yeah. Just because I didn't say it, this does have a 12% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Could you imagine sorry, what they said about Cameron Mackintosh of like, what if somebody did write this like right after she died? That would be crazy. Sorry.
Crazy.
What if you did a Diana musical in like 1998? Oh
God. On Letterboxd, this is 2.0 stars. So higher than, I guess that's about where we were. If 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
2 stars out of 5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read some regular people comments.
Just like Diana.
Just a voice of the people. Jay gave it a 1.5 stars and said the same production value as a musical challenge on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Whoa, that's accurate though. The stats were a little better than that, but otherwise.
But the move, like the choreography.
The choreography was very, very RuPaul. Yeah.
Very musical challenge.
Sarah Stinner gives it a 1.5 stars and says this feels like a musical that Jenna Maroney would make.
And yep, that's the energy. Yep.
Katie Menard gave it 2 stars and said, serves me right for marrying a Scorpio is a lyric Princess Diana sings with full seriousness in this musical. Not necessarily a review, but just a thing that does happen in the show.
A thing that does happen in the show and that I found deeply offensive as a Scorpio.
Yeah. Blocko287 gave it 0.5 stars and said, to put it in perspective, one song rhymes wank with bank. Oh, somebody called it a car crash. All right.
Oh, no.
Okay.
All right. How dare you? So that's how the people feel.
Yeah.
Are there any MVPs, do we feel, in this? Or is this MVP-less?
Whoever did the neon strips around the cathedral arches. That was my favorite moment. With the neon strips and the cathedral arches. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will say that La Jolla Playhouse's gall and gumption is the MVP for this whole project.
Yeah.
Because it's so funny because I feel like I always think
Support
of La Jolla.
Regional theater.
Yes, I think of La Jolla as like, okay, they bring cool, or they're the place that people want to take like, not necessarily experimental work, but work that they feel like could have, you want to play it out in La Jolla to be like, would this work on Broadway?
La Jolla has a budget, so you can do more bombastic things. I think at La Jolla,
because like there's stuff that like, okay, so like when
La Jolla,
when David Henry Hwang rewrote the book to Flower Drum Song, and it had like Lea Salon, and it was more about like the kind of like the like refugee and immigration like story of Asians in America. Did really well in La Jolla, but like didn't do well on Broadway. Like I think Peter and the Starcatcher, even though it's like, you know, obviously Disney money, but like very unique and creative that did really well in La Jolla and did really well on Broadway. Like I feel like La Jolla has like this reputation that like you can be creative here.
Well, it's the closest regional theater to LA. So they do have a lot of like how that money is in La Jolla in a way that it's not in other regional theaters around the country. Yeah.
So this feels very this feels like a flex on their like powers that I'm like, well, that's what I'll make my MVP, because it's like, well, you really flexed it on this one. You got it to Broadway.
My MVP from a pure pro shot of a stage show is, I'm going to say, the editor of this pro shot. I think the editing was good. I felt like it was very dynamic and bounced between like wide shots and close-ups frequently enough that I wasn't annoyed, but not too... Yeah,
I like the editing. I think the pacing of switching shots was good. I did not like, there were a few moments where they gave a camera angle that was clearly on the stage, like within the phone box or whatever.
When they did when she punches the mirror.
I'm like, okay, someone was filming.
That was not editing. I would say that was the director.
That's directing. Yes, for sure. Director of photography.
Yeah.
She was a little creative that day.
Yeah, I liked the editing. I was, entertained, because I think that is a challenge with filming something that's just on stage, is how do you keep it dynamic enough where you don't just feel like you're watching the VHS from your high school production.
Someone's mom. Someone's mom videotaping in the back.
Right.
So high marks on this one for sure from Showgays.
For sure, all around.
Molly, any closer? Do we want to? Is there anyone we want to call out specifically for healing? In the royal family?
I'll never regret saying anything more than I regret saying that. My closer, which I actually wrote ahead of time this time: pitch your aesthetic for a Harry and Meghan musical.
Oh, interesting.
This one is interesting because I think before I would have said the love story into the wedding, but now it's like, do we want to cover the Oprah? You know what I mean? Do you cover the aftermath as well?
That would be like pretty.
That's what the story is. Yeah.
Okay, here's my. I don't know if this describes aesthetic, but my framing device would be like, it is the Oprah interview, and then when she asks question, it weaves in and out.
Were you silent?
Were you silent? Were you silenced? And then it weaves in and out of the memories.
So we keep coming back to
the Oprah interview.
That's a strong concept. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. All you need, come on, you guys. Showgaze Productions.
And we're happy to announce we're partnering with La Jolla Playhouse to bring. Molly is playing Harry.
Of course,
and RJ is playing Meghan Markle. I had to really think about how I was going to cast that real quick.
Look, they only live like 2 hours away. They could appear themselves.
Megan could do it. I don't know if I would trust.
You know who would produce this is Tyler Perry. Their friend whose house they lived in.
Also
when they
Oprah, I feel like
exiled.
Oh yeah. I think the music aesthetic. Okay, when did they?
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. Oprah she would appear as herself doing the Oprah interview. 100%. Okay, sorry. Continue.
And that's how she'll win a Tony. Another one.
Yeah, it's a movie musical for sure.
Yeah.
Can you just do a quick Google of when they met? Like, what year is that?
Oh, like what's the?
Because I think
their marriage is.
Because then maybe that's the music. Maybe this is the Kelly Clarkson jukebox musical.
They got married in 2018.
They met July of 2016, a famously good year.
Great year.
Famously great year.
Summer.
This is my fight song was playing.
Song.
Yes, we were all listening to Hillary Rodham Clinton's.
This is what you came for. Interview, cheap thrills. Oh, we could get Sia back in here. We know how I feel about Sia writing musicals.
Oh yeah.
One Dance. Good. What is this? Drake?
One Dance is all it takes.
I have to talk to you guys about something off pod later about Drake.
About Drake?
Yeah.
He DM'd you?
No, that's One Kiss. That's not One Dance.
Oh, I'm too old for him.
Not that.
Panda? I don't remember this song. I don't remember some of these songs.
Okay, I think the aesthetic would be Calvin Harris. So like all of his like Calvin Harris, Max Martin.
Yeah.
Like yes, Scandinavian pop producers of songs that are like hits in America, which I feel like describes their relationship of like this relationship in Europe, in the UK, that like Americans are like loving because it's one of us. It's one of our girls. So maybe that's the aesthetic. Club. Now the club.
Is that the whole aesthetic, or is it like that's Megan's aesthetic?
I feel like Megan's aesthetic has to be American, and we obviously have to reference her being in Suits. You can't not. That's too funny.
So
maybe even some, Deal or No Deal.
You have to have Howie Mandel in this.
Yes.
But I mean,
do so much with those suitcases and like what's in the suitcase when she opens.
Harry's got to be.
I think the Deal or No Deal concept is better than the Oprah. Now that I'm thinking about it,
the whole thing is the framing device is Deal or No Deal suitcases.
It's an episode of Deal or No Deal.
Each briefcase has a prop that is indicative of the scene coming up.
Absolutely. It's like Follies, where she goes back to the old set of Deal or No Deal and the suitcases are still there and she opens them and she's like, I remember this number. And then she transports into the scene. Oh, come on, La Jolla.
Harry's aesthetic, though, I feel like you can either go One Direction, who was obviously still super big in 2016, or you can go like, I don't know, is there a male version of like Norah Jones energy, like more of a singer-songwriter-y?
But wasn't Harry like a partier? Wasn't that like his whole thing?
Younger. At this point, no.
At this point, okay.
No, not as much.
He's cooled off.
We all remember in the book Spare, where he talks about frostbite on his penis.
Yeah.
So we obviously have to reference that.
We unfortunately have to include that in here
as his full song in the energy of Diana the musical and the way that they would handle it, is without any tact.
I think his book should just be a song.
Oh, for sure.
Excerpts of the book.
I think there's definitely a song called Spare.
Oh, totally. Oh, that's how it starts. You could you could definitely do a last 5 years where their stories are like
going in reverse. I was gonna propose a Songs for New World format, and was it like
Song Cycle?
Wasn't it? There wasn't like a Bob Dylan movie where over the course of the movie he was played by like 16 different actors, including Cate Blanchett.
Yes. Cate Blanchett was one of them.
Yes. We're doing that, but it's Megan. And Megan is portrayed by like a series of actresses as vignettes to talk about the various ways she's been portrayed in the media.
And they could be like songs by who portray them. So like there could be a
6.
Beyonce.
It should be 6. You know what I mean? But all of them are Megan.
I mean, it is to be very serious about the Harry Meghan situation, which is like slightly also horrifying.
Sure.
It is crazy that the British press genuinely learned nothing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And are just repeating the same tactics and genuinely, with her.
I mean, genuinely, that's why they went on Oprah. That they were fully like,
but almost to a worse degree because she
had to leave.
Is not white. Yeah. And not British.
Yeah.
So it's
So make a musical out of it.
I think that's the way to handle it. For
and
sure.
that'll wish healing.
That'll bring people together and wish healing.
Sure. Yeah.
That will absolutely bring healing.
They have a Netflix deal. They could produce it.
Have it on Netflix.
Do you think they put
get their story directly?
Do you think they put any money behind the pro shot of the Diana musical?
I hope
a generous anonymous donor.
I hope to God not. That is so. Oh, it's so bad.
Wait, because when were they in America? It was already like pre-pandemic, right? It was such a blur. 2019
in pandemic.
I think it was in pandemic. I think it was during 2020 when they moved to America. I think. Oh God, June 2020.
Wow.
Because I also believe in the gumption of these people who made this. Mm-hmm. That were like, hey, let's reach out to Harry and Meghan. Just tell them like, hey, we're creating this amazing musical.
Listen, somebody was like, hey, Netflix, we know you have The Crown. Just distribute this. So somebody's got gumption.
Somebody has gumption.
On this
Someone
team.
has boomer level gumption for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just call them.
They walked into Netflix office. They just walked into the Netflix office.
They handed him a resume and said, I'm ready to work.
I've got a pro shot ready to go.
Got a pro shot ready to go. Well,
wow,
we did it.
We did.
We talked about Diana the musical. I will never watch this again. To be clear, I don't recommend anyone watch this. If that wasn't clear already, But I do feel like it needed to be said so that nobody can blame us for wasted evening. Some old wasted evening.
It's not even like a fun watch, like get drunk or get high and watch this.
No, if it was fun, then yes, but it's not fun.
It's not.
Yeah.
So
Watch Pride and Prejudice.
For sure.
go watch Pride and Prejudice for sure. I don't even remember.
Who's next in line for the throne? It's William.
Thanks for the reminder.
Who we wish for.
Oh, I know what's next. Okay. All right. Well, that's it from us. Jolly well done.
And thanks for the sun.
Thank you for listening to the best revival of a podcast, Showgays. You can find us on social media. Adam is at Adam Noecker on Twitter. RJ is at RJ Food Rocks on Instagram. And Molly is at Molly Matiny on Instagram. This episode was edited and mixed by Adam Noecker. This has been an Ampliverse production. You can find our show page and more information at theampliverse.com. If you'd like to send us your own takes on the movie we just watched, reach out to us via email and we might read it aloud on the show. Our email is showgazemoviemusical@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to help others find the show. And now, as always, the show must go on, so stick around to hear what we're going to be watching next episode.
About a little girl. Her name is Gigi. Now she looks adorable. So fresh, so eager, so young. Thank heaven for little girls. For little girls get bigger every day.
Yes, Gigi was so eager, so young, but not too young to learn about making herself shine in the eyes of some lucky man.
We don't marry, says it? Instead of getting married at once, it sometimes happens we get married at last.
She was raised to raise eyebrows, but Gigi more enjoyed raising the roof.
That since the world began, no woman or a man has ever been as happy as we are tonight.
Voila! It's a gay and taunting Paris that takes love so seriously and marriage so lightly. And what is a picture about gay Paris without Maurice Chevalier? He had once been the twinkle in Grandmama's eye.
We met at 9.
We met at 8.
I was on time.
No, you were late.
Ah, yes? I remember it well. You must be carefree. Devil may care. Be gay, extravagant, outrageous.
Gigi is dedicated to your zestful entertainment. A feast for your heart and senses in eye-thrilling cinemascope and metro color, lilting with the exciting melodies of Lerner and Lowe.
Say a prayer for me tonight. I'll need every prayer.
I'm so glad that I'm not young anymore.
Oh, Gigi, while you were trembling on the brink, was I out yonder somewhere blinking at a star?
For
Ampliverse.